Love podcasts, hate nonsense. The PoliticsJOE podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Bonus.
We've done it already, so we don't need
A
to plug
brief,
twice.
but nonetheless vigorous clapping
We've been cancelled again.
in the intervening period.
Well, we
Since
haven't
this
been,
morning.
but I tell you what has been.
Oh,
Winter Fuel Baby. She's back.
it's back.
So back. He's been trailing this for a couple of weeks, hasn't he? He's been hinting at it.
Yeah. Well, he announced it first, didn't he, at Prime Minister's Questions. He clearly
Oh, yeah.
he identified that Kemi Badenoch was going to do 6 of her questions pre-scripted on it. So even before she stood up at the dispatch box, he was already on the, by the way, we are going to give it back. Because, you know what the rationale for that was? You know what they're arguing?
Who?
Rather than say that Labour.
Right.
They. Rather than argue that then say, look, we messed up here, and actually it was really bad that people had to choose between heating and eating. They're like, the economy is much better, and we had to make tough decisions before, and now we can. And it's like there's been no change.
We fixed it.
But there's been no change in the economy.
So what's the detail of this, Ava? What's happening?
Okay, so every pensioner who earns over £35,000 will no longer be eligible for winter fuel credit, but everyone universally will have it given back to them. And then if you earn over £35,000, you'll have that stipend, £200 if you're under 80, £300 if you're over 80, taken out of your tax. HMRC will take it out.
Clawed back.
Yes. I mean, there's like several questions with this, which is like, well, how much is that going to cost HMRC to put that extra check and balance in? Because they're going to have to be really across it. Secondly, it doesn't affect people who are asset rich. So I would argue
So like most pensioners.
most pensioners. So if you say are sitting in a £1 million property, and I'm sure someone will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw that it's over 20% of pensioners have a £1 million property.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
It's certainly more than the number of people at this podcast table as a percentage.
Yes. We're sitting about 33%.
We're sitting here, sorry, I forgot Ed lives in a castle. No, we're sitting at a square 0% on this table. So yeah, the pension is better represented there, I think, in that regard.
This seems like a massive overcorrection, doesn't it? It seems like they've just caved to so much pressure.
Yeah.
35 grand.
Yeah.
That's almost an average salary. That's
Yeah.
like 2 grand off the average salary in the UK. Is it like?
I love that's the threshold. Also, like the threshold for like people who don't even have to like travel to work anymore.
Who own their home?
Yeah, who own their
mortgages?
homes.
Who don't have childcare costs? But own their cars?
This is
own
kind
all
of-
their furniture? Don't subscribe to OnlyFans?
Which I am struggling to financially recover from.
Do you ever see that American
I'm
guy?
saddled in debt.
Do you ever see that American guy who does like audits of people's finances?
Yes.
Like I can't remember his name.
Yeah, but they're always like insane culture war things.
But it's like Jeremy Vine for
Yeah.
not Jeremy Vine, Jeremy Kyle for people's bank accounts.
Yeah.
And it's always like I'm tipping my favorite meme maker $1,000 a week. And he's like, why? And that's how we live at the moment. That's why we can't afford homes.
Well, you get paid your salary in a lump sum on January 31st, all 35,000, and you're like, but I spend 34,999.
Somebody help me. Why am I broke? Yeah. It's always a hard one because as a financially responsible person, I
Are you? I'm not.
I semi-regularly log into my private pensions pod to like look at the calculations and bang my head against a wall, and it always says like when you're using the calculator, it's like how much do you want your annual pension to be, and I always think about it. I'm like, well, I don't actually know because presumably you won't have to pay a mortgage anymore. You'd hope so.
Hope so.
You won't have children that you have to sort of, buy clothes for.
Mm-hmm.
What will my overheads like? It's actually quite a hard thing to be like. What would an annual income be that would be nice to have? Certainly, £35,000 ticks that box for me. I think it absolutely would.
Yep.
Yeah, with zero overhead. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I don't know. It's really hard.
Yeah, but again, I mean, we talked about salary briefly last week. We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
And just about how
Fleeting
distorted a lot of
reference,
people,
yeah.
the number of people who say no one in London can live on £35,000. And it's like, pal, a lot of people are living on about £25,000 and they're living okay.
They should be great.
No, they're-
Yeah.
20
They're living absolutely fine.
25 grand a
They
month.
only have to spend £1,000 per month on rent. The rest of that money, they don't need to eat. The rest of that money,
Only fans.
fans.
Supporting small business women.
Yeah.
But it's not even like porn only fans. It's
No.
like it's like someone
Tarot
doing
reading.
embroidery or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That comedian who brushes their hair on Instagram.
It's
OnlyFans.
ASMR. It's ASMR content. That's what it is.
Please stop sending me Gordon Brown doing ASMR. I can't cope with
Is
it.
he actually doing it?
No, it's him typing from like early 2000s. I've had it like,
Ooh.
I'm not exaggerating, over 50 times. I'm like,
On a big chunky keyboard.
yeah.
I like that.
But that sounds good.
It's
brother.
quite a buttery keyboard.
But buttery. Smooth.
Well, you want it to have a clack.
I want to do a clickety clack.
Yeah, you want clickety clack. No.
What does this tell us about the Labour government?
That
think that's-
they are in hock to the boomers.
They don't have any credible political messaging.
But the thing is, well, I'm not. They've definitely kowtowed to pressure from the press, but not because they felt bad about the pensioners, but because they couldn't keep this run up in the press. Like they could not keep up this front pages with the front pages. Like overnight, you had Nigel Farage on the front page of the Express. U-turn now on winter fuel. You've had the Lib Dems have got a couple of front pages out of this, which is rather rare for them.
Yeah, they must be buzzing.
So they were buzzing about that. And the Tory. Do you see Kemi Badenoch? Should we say what she said on
What
it?
did she say?
She called the U-turn humiliating. She says her party repeatedly warned him to reverse his callous decision, and every time he arrogantly dismissed me.
Sexist.
Do you know something? The sad thing is he won't even have seen that tweet. You'll never see that tweet.
He's got blinkers on. Do you know what I don't get? So Labour won like a difficult by-election in Hamilton, and the narrative from like the SNP and Reform was that everyone they were talking about was bringing up the winter fuel payment as a reason not to vote Labour. So they could point to that and be like, oh, it's an endorsement. Like, it actually doesn't matter. We're going to ride out, not an endorsement necessarily, but we can ride out the next difficult 4 years and make a more credible political argument. This just looks like they've expended so much goodwill and political capital so quickly, all for nothing.
This is the thing. It seems super peculiar because it's sort of maximally timed to extract the highest political price, and then delivered at the point where it can't really have much.
No.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like either do it and
do
stick,
it last week. Do it last Wednesday before the by-election.
Do you think it's pressure from Anas though? Because was that not his sort of that he was pretty outspoken on winter fuel?
But they won anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like maybe before.
I think they've kicked so many people, and they regret it, and so they've gone, no, do you know what? Actually, the pensioners, they can have it back.
They might vote.
I think that's what it is. It's
They
like,
might vote.
You think like farmers, small business owners, pensioners,
Disabled people.
by proxy, sort of, younger generations, and they've just gone, oh, actually, we do need someone to vote for us. So let's backtrack on that. But I think it just undermines as with all of these things, and as we always say, what they spend money on is a political choice. That it's never an either or. But 2-child benefit cap and all of the litigation backwards and forwards over that. Like you could just pay for it. It is an option. The uplift in defence spending, like you can just pay for these things if you want to. It's about what you say is important, and they are saying pensioners earning up to £35,000 are very important.
And they could have done this a lot better politically, strategically. Like they want to put in all of these wind farms, they want to put in solar farms. What they could have said was last year, that because they've been up against all this planning. What's it called? Entanglement with planning.
Mm-hmm.
They could have said, well, look, we are going to keep the pensioners' winter fuel payment. It's going to be very expensive, but you are going to have a solar farm in your area. That's what they could have done.
Yeah.
There is going to be a wind turbine in your area. And then if all of the pensioners revolted, you could say, well, then where's the energy going to come from? You're going to have Putin's piss? Is that what you're going to do to power your house?
Is that what we're calling liquid gas?
Yeah.
It's not very Slava Ukraine of you.
Yeah.
Where is your Ukraine flag badge?
Peter using Putin's piss. Take down Ukraine's flag. Yeah.
They also said the big thing was they're going to save up £1.5 billion by abolishing the winter fuel payment. and now they're down to like 400 million with the people who aren't getting it. Do we not need that money still? Like, it just undoes their entire political messaging about all the cuts.
Yeah, and
Still.
it does. And they've just, I'm laughing, that's so stupid. Sean learnt about still over the weekend. You know, when you feel like, still, as in like the slang, and he was using it, so that made me laugh.
Oh, I don't think I was using it.
No, you weren't, but
okay.
Suddenly I got, sorry.
I would dare culturally appropriate.
They've also, they have done something that everyone was begging for last year, which is free school meals for all children who are on universal credit. I mean, I think we'd rather see universal free school meals. Do you know the threshold for receiving free school meals before that? It was still 1 in 4 children who get them every day, but the threshold was £7,500 annual income. How frightening is that? That many people in the country, that many children are living in a house with an income of £7,500. It's really frightening, no?
Yeah. Well, it's one thing for you and it's another for me, isn't it? It's like this. I know the whole Nick 31 thing is like a meme, but you're looking at it going like fucking Linda and Jeffrey 71 riding the fucking gravy train, and then it's really hard to not fall into kind of like generational antagonism and sort of ageist dogma, but you are sort of looking at it going, oh, right, okay, so if you're a young family with not much more than a pot to piss in, you can pay for your school meals after 7.5, you know, that's on you. But if you're a pensioner up to 35 grand, which, I mean, I'd be interested to hear from pensioners actually whether 35 grand would sort you out. I imagine it probably would.
Well, the household income. So if you get a household income of 70 grand, you get this.
It's not that clear. Some people are saying it is. Some people are saying it isn't.
I mean, if it's 35k per person, then I think it's possibly beyond ridicule. I mean, household income is still kind of it's still a lot, isn't it?
I want to actually add up how much.
What if we lived in a commune?
Us,
multiple pensioners, yeah,
multiple pensioners,
in
a cooperative living situation,
up to like, I don't know, 300 grand, something like that.
Mm-hmm. And then what?
Like 9 of us,
right? 9
pensioners all hanging out, creaming.
Do you mean us when we're old, or like 9 pensioners now?
No, us and 6 other pensioners.
Okay. Who are the 6? You have a wife. Is she automatically?
Will I still have a wife?
Good question.
What about like,
you keep getting cancelled?
Yeah. I don't know, someone from like the Spiked or the Unheard editorial team that will keep it interesting. Be a lively political pensioner commune.
I missed something because I was adding up how much Kemi Badenoch spends on lunch a year.
Oh yeah, for the steak.
Yeah, so she does about 3,900 a year on lunch.
On lunch.
Respect.
Yeah. So I guess if you are earning 7,400, you could actually afford to send your child to school every day and have Farmer J steak, couldn't you? So maybe people aren't budgeting correctly.
That's what it is.
It's financial. That's what it'll come down to.
It's financial re-education. That's what we need.
Yeah, exactly. If they weren't spending all £7,400 on OnlyFans.
I don't know. I feel conflicted about this because obviously, you know, pensioner poverty is a real thing. There are pensioners who are very hard up.
But we know that.
But it's just
35 grand is way too high. Like, if you're making this point, like 25.
No, but if it's 35k, okay, I get it. Without assets, that makes sense. If you are paying a mortgage or you have other assets, then 35k. Like, I do get it. If you are a pensioner and you've got 35k coming in every single year and you've got to pay a £1,000 mortgage, then maybe you might know what it feels like to be Gen Z. But it also, it's difficult.
Also, why don't young people get? Young people have
That's what I'm saying.
Like, it's literally, it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And young people are like,
Yeah.
they're on 50% of your salary, 50% of your salary on fucking housing. Oh, it's all right. But the thing is, though, they won't have mortgages because mortgage companies won't lend to you when you're that old because like your risk of death is like a genuine problem. So they won't have mortgages like that. Genuinely.
Do they not just, what's it called, the house?
What?
Why have I forgotten the word for it?
Remortgage?
No, when they take it
Repossess?
back. Repossess.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's just nuts. The whole economy, the whole sort of organisation of the sort of the state, and you know who benefits, and quite often it does just seem to be the elderly.
What was the last time COVID that we all benefited from the state in terms of like furlough?
Even then, I don't. But that's like. I guess we'll have this argument then. Like, who are we all staying inside to protect?
Yeah, I think it's a different question.
The elderly and the vulnerable.
Yeah.
Like, if like, we were the state paid like 80% of people's wages up to a certain point, right? But when you think about sort of like the kids that were at uni, kids that were in sixth form, those like fundamental, like so centrally important developmental years, formational years in your life, that then had to just live at home with their parents for sort of alternating periods of months at a time.
And couldn't get a job, remember that, because that's always the argument that they make about pensioners is that they can't work. Neither could these 18-year-olds.
And they did it transpires, to protect the elderly, because it turned out that the virus wasn't that dangerous for them. Like, they made this ginormous sacrifice. Like, I would probably push back a little bit and say that I think during COVID it was certainly to the benefit of the elderly that the country like got locked down in the way that it did.
I actually don't see it as oppositional, perhaps, as that. I think like people were prepared to sacrifice things for the sake of people not dying, kind of regardless of age. And I suppose I think the same thing to a certain extent about the like age-based benefits, in that people don't want their grandparents to grow old. And it's actually the reverse. Grandparents would like their grandchildren to be able to buy a house. I'm not sure people do see it in as oppositional terms. I think people are frustrated across these things.
Yeah.
It's this sort of, I was on Jeremy Vine last week with a panelist who was arguing that it's absolutely fine for young people. She's had to work very, very hard so that she could get her kids through university. And that then putting to her, okay, but most kids go to university without the help of their parents. Like, you should not have to fund your children going to university.
No.
She was like, I worked really, really hard to put all my kids through university. And I was like, well, I worked 3 or 4 days a week. Like, maybe you should. Do you know what I mean? Like, that argument.
Well, it kind of also demonstrates to her the sort of the futility of the argument. It's like you shouldn't. Can you not recognise that things perhaps aren't organised in the right way if you're having to pay for them to go?
This is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Why did you have to take up extra shifts to send your kids to university? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
Eliza Philby, that interview, maybe go and watch that. The Banker Mum and Dad.
Yeah, that was good.
About the transfer of wealth.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they're the richest cohort of people we've seen so far as a society, and much has been made about the sort of the great transfer of wealth when these people die.
Can't wait.
I just wonder if they're the people that need this much support from the state, and whether or not, you know, the some 40% or so of people that claim universal credit but still are in work, maybe they could do with a little bit more.
Can I just also make a brief point?
Yeah.
I find it very frustrating that Labour were very angry during the last administration under the Tories that the Tories would announce a policy before bringing it to the House. And they're repeating that. They announced it at midday. Cynically, you could argue, to compete with Nigel Farage's presser in Port Talbot, where he called for the reopening of the coal mines. That's for another day. Why did you do an announcement before you then revealed it to the Commons? You're exactly the person you promised you'd never be.
Not this Labour government go back on their word.
No. Imagine my shock. Well,
There you go.
there we are. Little bonus one, little freebie.
Yeah, enjoy that.
Any final words?
No, thank you. You?
No. Thank you. You?
No, thank you.
You.